Hello, welcome to another video on the Scouring Early Access. Today's video is going to be a guide on all the in-game scripts that you can choose right here before any game starts. And usually all of the in-game script start during the start of the night in the game, but one of the game scripts is always active at the beginning of the game, and that's the Overseer's game script. But we'll get to all the game scripts a little bit later, and I'm pretty much going to be explaining each game script while showing the best way to deal with the game script or how to play very well while it's active. And near the end of explaining each of the game scripts, I'm going to be rating it from a 1 to 5 point rating to see if it's a yes, pretty good, or interesting game script. And right now I'm going to be explaining what this rating system means and what each of the points determines the rating. Alright, and this rating system is going to be made of 5 points. And to begin, the first point is going to be called is it fun / interesting during the early game, or pretty much the first 2 nights in the game, the first night and then the second night, and then determining if it's, I guess, a little different and a little interesting to play. And point 2 is going to be is it balanced / fair when playing against other people. So it's a balanced game script, and all the players have a fair chance to have a equal struggle against the game script itself, instead of having some unfair advantage, you could say. And point 3 is going to be is it fun / interesting in the later part of the game or the late game. This pretty much determines if the game script becomes harder every night, becomes more interesting, and I guess more difficult to deal with, which I think is more interesting. It makes games more fun to play later into the game. And point 4 is going to be is it fun to interact with while playing against other people, or how the game script, I guess, works when you're attacking another player and the game script is also attacking the player. For example, we can use the Curse of the Undead script example, where the skeletons keep spawning around your enemy's base, and you can attack their base while the skeletons are helping you attack them. And that's usually fun and interesting to play. Anyways, point 5 is going to be, I guess, 5 out of 5, meaning that there's nothing more to improve to the game script. It's as good as it gets, and it's a perfect rating. But if it doesn't get this rating, then I'll add some, I guess, maybe suggestions to maybe improve the game script to make it a little more interesting in the later parts of the game. Alright, and the first game script is going to be called the Curse of the Undead, or the Skeleton script as I call it. This game script starts at the beginning of the night, which is around minute 4 and 10 seconds, which means it's going to be starting pretty soon. And the nighttime usually lasts for about 2 minutes and 55 seconds, so slightly shorter than a day. But to keep in mind that the first day is only 4 minutes long, and every following day is going to be 7 minutes long. So the first day is around half as long as any normal day. Anyways, and over here you can see the night has come. You can already see the skeletons spawning here. You're going to be spawning in the dark parts of your, I guess, close to your base, but dark parts of your base. And here you can see the skeletons. You can spawn in this variation, where they're, I guess, a swordsman skeleton. Can give you some gold, and you can level up your units as well. But there's also the second variation, it's the worker skeleton. We're going to try to find him here. You can see the swordsman. He has 60 health. And he does 4 damage per hit. Over here we can see this is a worker skeleton. Looks like a worker. Has the same stats as a worker as well. He has 60 health. And he does 3 damage per hit. Similar to your workers when they attack with their little axe. And pretty much with every falling night, the skeletons don't really get any stat increases. Their stats are the same. And so they don't do more damage or more, I guess, they don't gain any more health. But they do tend to spawn more. And especially you can see here, I killed some goblins here. There's some corpses here. So they tend to like to spawn a bit more. You can see here, there's a lot more of them here compared to this area. Alright, now I'm going to show a few tips to help you deal with undead script. And I guess the first tip is to keep a few units on top of high ground buildings. You can see this way you can keep all of your units somewhat safe. There's a lot of vision here. And it's very, you can see here there's a lot of vision. And the skeletons are very unlikely to attack into you here. But here you can see when there's no units next to a building, there's not much vision. I'm gonna see a little example of, I guess, overwhelming skeletons here. And when there's a lot of skeletons, your archers tend to do these arcing shots where they're not really shooting. And an easy way to deal with this little issue is to take one of your archers or units and use them as bait, as we can see here. It's gonna allow all your archers on top to shoot with proper, I guess, shots instead of doing these very inaccurate arcing shots. And another tip I would say is I wouldn't recommend using cannons to kill the skeletons, because you can see here they can kill skeletons very effectively, but they don't give any gold, so it's recommended to not use cannons to defend, but to use units. This way you can actually get some gold, which can help you economically as well. But of course, if there is no cannons or big armies of yours, and you want to defend a position really well, you can take a few units and press P to tell them to patrol an area. This way, even though you don't have any buildings, for example, these warriors are going to be able to defend this position. But you can also deal with archers as well. And here you can see just a single archer on this tiny guard tower. It gives you so much vision that you can just keep your base very safe, very easily. And in case you want to get rid of this darkness, you can build farms in these dark spots, which is going to allow you to keep your base safe. And so that skeletons are not going to be spawning in this area again. And last little tip, in case there's no units here to defend you, at your expansion for example, it's usually less defended than your main base here. And you can use your workers to quickly build a guard tower to defend yourself against a group of skeletons. And the good thing with guard towers is that even if skeletons surround your guard tower, similar to a barracks, but here the workers will have a clear line of sight, so they're going to be able to clear up the skeletons very easily. But as we saw here before, when the skeletons surrounded the barracks, the archers like to do these arcing shots that didn't really kill the skeletons really well. And I guess that's most of the tips. And I guess another tip is, if you get all the units here to give you vision, this allows you to leave very minimal amount of military units. And this way you can take all your military during the night. You can go out on a map and then attack your enemy, for example, or I guess, go around and clear all the neutrals, which is gonna allow you to be more efficient with your armies. This way you don't just sit around and sit in your base and not really get any extra gold or any extra, I guess, XP for your army. And I guess this is some kind of a tip, but not exactly, because I would recommend your farms to be spaced out. Because if you don't have them spaced out, you can see there's some darkness here, and during the night, skeletons are going to be spawning here, and you're going to be annoying your workers. But if you space out your farms, then you can keep an area bright and safe. Just going to keep your back of your base safe during the night. But if you don't feel like doing this kind of, I guess, building strategy, you can always place your farms very close to a building, just like this bastion here. And for example, you can put a lot of archers here, and during the night all the skeletons are going to be coming to attack your farmers here. But if you have all the archers, then you can, I guess, farm the skeletons by shooting them, so they're going to be more likely to attack your farms that are on the edges of your high ground buildings. And that's pretty much it for the main tips to deal with the curse of the undead script. Alright, and I'm going to be rating the game script from 1 to 5. And it gets first point because it gives an interesting playstyle during the early game, which forces you to plan ahead, because you're forced to, I guess, have a different playstyle. You have to place your farm strategically to keep your base safe and skeleton free. And for the second point, this game script gets the second point because it spawns a fair amount of skeletons per player, which makes it fair because all the players have to deal with the same amount of skeletons, as you can see here, which I guess is fair. But of course, the more enemies that die in an area, leave more corpses, it's gonna make it more skeletons spawn in a particular area, like probably here in this battlefield where I'm fighting a different enemy. And this game script gets the third point because it does become more difficult to defend every following night. I believe this is the third night, and there's a whole lot more skeletons you can see spawning compared to the earlier nights. And here, the game script gets the fourth point because it has many interesting interactions between other people or other players. Basically, it's very fun to interact when I'm fighting this enemy here, for example, and the skeletons are going to be somewhat slowing me down, but also it's going to be slowing down my enemy here, which is going to allow me to overwhelm him because he has to deal with my units at the same time as the skeletons. But I guess the Undead game script doesn't get the fifth point because, in my opinion, it can be somewhat improved by maybe making the skeletons do more damage or have more health, or my idea is to maybe allow for very big skeletons to spawn during the third night or second night onwards, which can make it a little difficult and a lot more fun to have, I guess, slightly bigger and better defenses, because you can usually fight all these skeletons with no issues with just a very big ground army, but having these big skeletons could make it a little more interesting. And so overall, from me, the Undead or Curse of the Undead script gets a 4 out of 5 score from me, which is pretty good, but I guess there's a few things that could make it a little more fun and better overall. Alright, and the second game script is called Goblin Waves. This script basically spawns a single big wave of goblins that's going to be spawning in the darkness a little bit far from your main base, and it's going to be trying to go towards your main base. And so each player in a match is going to be getting his own goblin wave, and it's going to be starting at around the beginning of the nighttime, which is around 4 minutes and 10 seconds. And basically how it works is it sends out a big mountain troll with a group of goblins. In the first wave only has one mountain troll, and it sends out 8 stabby goblins. And each following night the mountain troll gets increased damage and health, and gets 80 more health and then 5 more damage. But the stabby goblins don't get any stat increases. They're just way more of them each following night. And also how it works is each of the players gets a goblin wave, but not all of them spawn at the exact same time. They all spawn in order. Like one player gets a wave, then the next one, then the next one, and the next one. But they usually spawn in around, I guess, maybe 5 to 10 second intervals, I would say. And usually when you are playing against a goblin wave, you want to try to be close to your main base to try and take care of a goblin wave before going out on a map. As we can see here, you can see this little exclamation point. This will tell you where the goblin wave spawned. Now it's going to be trying to go towards my main base, or if you had an expansion here, it would go here as well to try and destroy you. And of course the goblins, they don't despawn, and so they're going to be munching your base even into the daylight. So you want to try and kill all of them. And of course, to deal with them, you want to try and focus down the mountain troll, or I guess not take his attention. But usually you can see here, he doesn't really try to focus anyone down. So if you micro units away, there's a good chance he can run away. But with each following level, which they level up during every night, they can become harder and harder to take care of. And pretty much every following night you get another troll. So on the second night you'll get 2 trolls, and the amount of stabby goblins here, you'll probably double in size. So wave 1 had around 8 stabby goblins, and wave 2 is going to be having around 20 goblins, and then wave 3 is going to have 40 goblins. And so it kind of doubles every night, which becomes a little harder to defend against later parts of the game. Alright, now I'm going to show a few tips that you can use to try and fight the goblin waves when they spawn. Yes, one of the tips is you can use cannons to quickly take care of the mountain trolls, because they do a lot of damage, which can be very helpful in dealing with them. And you can also use heads to distract the goblins, which is a bit of an exploit right now, because the goblins get agitated when they get shot. I'm gonna shot right here, but they can't really attack back, so they're just gonna be huddling around here. Just like this, you can see, you can just abuse the goblins like this and basically make them follow you whichever way you want. You can even just bait them in to go and attack your enemy if you want to. Or just like this, if you're about to kill my base here, but you can just bait them in and then make them follow you to whichever place you want. Which I believe should be patched out, because this is a little too powerful. Here I'm going to try to show the cannons. If we can get these goblins over here. There you go, you can see you can just select your cannons to shoot at the mountain trolls. And when you take care of the mountain trolls, it becomes way easier to take care of the little goblins. And because of a high damage, you
becomes relatively easy to fight the rest of the wave if you're able to focus down these big boys. You can see one shot and a second volley, they melt very easily. And that's very, I guess, few things that can help you out survive a bit longer. Alright, and over here I'm going to be showing a few more tips. Here I saw there was a goblin wave attacking the blue player, but of course I can be attacking him at the same time, which can be very useful and effective, I guess, as well. Over here you can capture these outposts on the map if this map has outposts, and it's a very easy way to hold off against a lot of mountain trolls and stabby goblins. Here you can see the goblins are attacking, but instead of killing them, I can just focus down the enemies, units, and buildings. Just gonna leave all these goblins to take care of my enemy. But over here you can see the goblins spawned. You can somewhat bait them in, if that is possible here. There you go, one little warrior. You can just bait them in here on this outpost. You can basically hold off all the goblins here. And we're gonna see right here the goblins try to climb, but they're always going to be climbing one by one, which is going to allow me to just kill them forever here, which is pretty funny. But here I wanted to also show you can also do it with the archers as well. It's a bit more effective, but this pesky AI got here first. This way you can buy a lot of time for yourself, because by the time all these goblins die, all of your warriors are just going to take forever to die here. But you can use that time to go attack an enemy, or to even just get more reinforcements out on the field. And of course over here, if you are able to get these wizards or warlocks, or the whatever you call them, apprentices for the humans, can be very effective. Because for warlocks, they can put a poison on these units, and there's a huge wave of goblins, you can easily take care of them, because all these units are going to be going to low health, and then just send an army out here to take care of them very easily. Alright, now I'm going to be rating the Goblin Wave script, and this script gets the first point because the early game is interesting by making play different playstyle, where you have to leave a substantial force in next to your main base, and you have to basically defeat a big force before being able to go out on a map during the night, which I think is a little interesting concept. And this script gets the second point because it spawns the exact amount of enemies for each player, so each enemy has a fair and balanced chance to fight the exact same enemies, not more or not less amount of goblins. Even though sometimes an enemy wave can spawn inside your base, or just not spawn at all, but that is very rare for that to happen. And this script gets the third point because the game does become more fun and more difficult with every following night, because the Goblin Waves basically doubles almost every following night, which becomes more difficult and more interesting because there's very many gamifications or scenarios that can happen. And this game's script gets a fourth point because it can be fun to send out your army to attack the enemy while you're defending your own base, which can be a little fun to basically attack the enemy with goblins munching away their base at the same time as well. And this script doesn't get the fifth point because I think it can be improved by adding a few goblin archers to the waves. This will allow the demon heads to not abuse the goblins, and I guess also to take care of any units that are hiding on outposts. And so overall it gets a 4 out of 5 score, and it's a relatively good and fun game script that can be making very interesting and cool games, I guess. Alright, and the third game script is called the Realm of the Lich. Basically, it spawns a big skeleton. That's like a wizard or warlock, you could say. And pretty much the beginning of the night, just like this, the Lich will spawn in the darkness, somewhat far away from your base. But basically, how it works is that only one Lich will spawn for every 2 players. And there's only 2 players on the map right now, which means that the Lich spawned in my enemy's base. And the Lich pretty much has all the abilities that are similar to the Warlock, but also he has one ability that is similar to an Apprentice. I guess over here we can see the first ability. He can spawn skeletons, just like a Warlock. And with each following night, he gets, I guess, more health. And he gets slightly better abilities that allow him to spawn more skeletons. And I guess probably have better other spells. But here, there's another spell he can use, just like the Warlock. When your units are below 50% health, he can basically consume them and insta-kill them when they're below 50% health. And this magic shield ability, this blue thing, basically means that he gets reduced damage from any attack, which keeps him alive a bit longer. And then this bubble effect ability, as you can see here, slowing down my units. And it even is going to be slowing down the projectiles as well. And I guess final ability he has is that when he's below 50% health, he will try to teleport away to safety. And that's usually closer to an enemy's base, as you can see. And so you spawn closer to my base now, which basically he gets a little cooldown, and so an enemy player can go on and kill him to get some extra gold, because the Lich is not going to be able to use a teleport in like maybe 20 seconds. And pretty much with each following night, he gets the ability to spawn more skeletons. So instead of 4, he would spawn maybe 6, and the following night maybe 8. And pretty much you want to have a lot of army at your base to deal with the spawning skeletons. But also, I guess the final thing is that when a day starts up, or it's the end of the night, the Lich will eventually burn up and die. But as you can see here, his skeletons are going to be alive and then just harassing your base. So you want to keep in mind that even though it's the end of the night, all the skeletons are not going to be despawning. So you're going to be, a lot of trouble if you don't take care of them. Alright, now I'm going to be showing a few tips that you can use to deal with the Lich a little easier. And we're going to be showing you here. Basically, the first tip is that Lich is going to be very passive, and if there is no military units next to him, then he's not going to be really spawning skeletons. So you can even walk in your base here. If there's no units shooting back at him, they can just not really care about him. You can just ignore him and nothing's going to be happening, which I think might be a bit of an oversight. I guess the next tip is that if you have units that are on low health, if you're fighting for example, then instead of running towards the Lich and trying to fight him, you would want to try to avoid him with a low health unit, so you wouldn't just kill them with a lifesteal ability like this. And I guess another tip is you want to have a substantial force of units at home, because if you have an army, for example, and you angered the Lich, it's just gonna keep on spawning these skeletons. And if you don't have enough military to take care of him, he's gonna be just munching away your whole base. So always want to have a good handful of units. And I guess also you can try to just kill his skeletons and ignore killing the Lich himself. That way you can just farm a lot of gold and a lot of XP for units. But also because there's only one Lich. And so if you just keep fighting him the whole night, then your enemy's not going to have the opportunity to do the same. And that way you can get a big advantage with a lot of globals and extra gold. And I guess another tip, in case you have a warrior build order where there's just a lot of warriors, and it's going to be a little difficult to take care of the Lich. And so if you get a little overwhelmed with the skeletons, you can always just take your workers and you can focus down the Lich. This way you can stop him from spawning all the skeletons. This way the enemy can go deal with the Lich himself. Alright, now I'm going to be rating the Realm of the Lich from 1 to 5. And basically this script gets first point because it does give a new playstyle where you can somewhat reliably farm the Lich by killing his skeletons a lot repeatedly, which can, I guess, bring a new playstyle where you can farm the Lich and deny the XP from your enemy because there's only one Lich, or I guess by just killing him very quickly. And this script gets this script doesn't get the second point because there's only one Lich per 2 players, and so it can feel somewhat unfair sometimes when the Lich doesn't spawn next to you, and the enemy in the meantime can just farm him and take care of him very easily. And this script gets half of the third point because it does get somewhat difficult in a later part of the game or the following nights, but in my opinion it's kind of boring or just not very difficult to deal with him because you can just focus fire him with a lot of archers or a lot of your army, and so it's very easy to ignore him or just not even pay attention anyways. But especially when a Lich can just walk around here and not spawn any skeletons, it can be very easy to just not care about the script. Anyways, and this script doesn't get the 5th point because I think it can be improved somewhat. And I guess one suggestion I have is maybe at the beginning of a second night or the third night, maybe you can get an ability to spawn big skeletons to make you, I guess, care about him being in your base more. And so you can't just have a small handful of units like this to just focus fire him or to just repeatedly kill all of his skeletons. It just feels a little underwhelming as a script itself. And he was added into, I guess, winter maps more, so maybe another suggestion is give him some kind of ice abilities or ice magic, which would maybe make him make more sense of being like a Lich instead of like a necromancer warlock kind of guy. And I guess overall it gets a 2.5 out of 5 score, so not terrible, not great, but it's kind of unpopular with people. It's a little unengaging, I would say. Alright, and a final script is going to be called the Overseer's script. Basically this will spawn this Overseer flying ahead, and he's going to be trying to defend your bases, and he has a few spells that are very similar to the Wizard in the Heroes mode, or the Apprentice in the classic Humans mode. Basically, he doesn't really have a basic attack, so he's just going to be flying around and then using all the spells against you. And we're going to go attack this enemy here to see a few of his spells. And of course, one of his abilities is that he can teleport to any expansion or any new base. Doesn't even have to be fully built, as we can see here. This base is only being built. He's already here defending it. This first ability, you can slow down your units. And then you can spawn a few skeletons that are not going to be burning up, so they're going to be lasting forever. Similar to a Lich. And of course, we saw here, there was an ice storm. I guess just a lot of flying ice blocks just falling on my face. And also the final ability I think he has is that he can basically put a magic shield on himself. And usually these games can be a little annoying because there's not much you can do to, I guess, level up your units. But here you can see he's using Ice Storm to just melt his whole army. Can feel a little annoying to play against, I would say. And I also, every following, I guess, oh yeah, forgot to mention that he starts at the beginning of the game and that he doesn't really get progressively stronger the longer the game goes. So you always have these similar abilities, which is kind of underwhelming. But he is very powerful, which is why it can be a little annoying to fight against. As you can see here, my enemy's making a lot of swordsmen, and there's no way for a melee build, you could say, to fight evenly against Overseer. He's going to need a lot of archers, a lot of cannons to try and shoot him down. Alright, now I'm going to show a few tips to, I guess, take care of the Overseer a little easier. But also I did forget to mention that when the Overseer dies, he is not going to be respawning again, so if you're able to take him down, it can be very helpful in allowing you to attack an enemy's base a little easier the next time. But pretty much you want to try and get a lot of anti-air units like archers or cannons, or if you're playing orc, you can even make flying heads to take him down. So another tip is you want to try and kill the Overseer when another player's army is not next to him, so you can try to snipe him real quick so you don't lose as many units. But overall he is pretty annoying to kill, and if you do manage to lose a substantial force of units but you still get to take him down, it's still somewhat worth it because he's not going to be respawning. It's going to allow you to attack even easier the next time. But here we're going to try to attack this AI. And you want to try and keep your units, I guess, a bit spread out. Because the Overseer is going to be doing all of his abilities like this. If your units are not spread out, then they're going to be getting just murdered. Of course, you want to try to target him down. You can see here, he died very quickly. And now you're able to just attack this enemy with no issues, especially because Overseer is not going to be bothering you ever again. And of course, another thing I'm going to show is that the Overseer, when he gets to low health, he will try to escape and teleport to a different base. We're going to see it here with my Overseer. That's possible. I guess maybe another enemy unit is supposed to be attacking him for that to trigger, but yes, he will teleport away to try and save himself. But of course, as we saw here, he managed to kill the enemy's overseer a little faster, so he didn't really have the time to even think about teleporting away. Alright, now I'm going to be rating the overseer's game script from 1 to 5. And this script gets the first point because it does change the playstyle a little bit by basically making rushes or early game rushes very not possible. Because if you try to attack an enemy, the overseer is just gonna slow down your army and then just evaporate it with the ice storm, which can be, I guess, a little interesting. But as we saw here, this AI was able to start to build another expansion, even though this town hall wasn't even finished building. The overseer already teleported here to try and defend it, so it can be a very turtle heavy match, I would say. Anyways, this script gets the second point for being fair, because every single player gets their own overseer. But I guess a little nitpick is that each match is going to be becoming a anti-air focused match, so you're going to need a lot of archers, a lot of cannons to even have a chance against other people, because the warriors or melee units can't really deal with the overseer at all. So anyone doing a warrior start with just a big army of warriors is going to be unable to attack any expansions of the enemy or to even win in general, I would think. Anyways, this script doesn't get the third point because the overseer doesn't make the late game harder or more interesting to what he already has, or his abilities in general. They don't really improve or doesn't really change at all. It's just an overseer that just hangs around your base. You can teleport around to defend you. Anyways, this script gets a half of a fourth point because there can be some fun moments, as we saw watching my enemy's army melt away from the ice storm. But it can feel very frustrating when an enemy has this big army defending him, on top of his overseer being able to help him as well. And so it becomes very annoying and very not fun to try and attack an enemy in his expansions or his main base. And so it becomes like a game of whack-a-mole where you try to kill his overseer when his army is on the other side of a map, and so you don't have to deal with his overseer and his army at the same time, which can be a little tricky to pull off. And this script doesn't get the fifth point because it's not a perfect script, and there can be many things that can be improved. I guess one thing that can be improved is maybe make him more difficult over time, or after every night he gets maybe like a extra ability where his abilities get slightly stronger. And I guess maybe another idea is during the day he has a set of abilities, but when it's nighttime he gets a different set of abilities to defend your base. And I guess another suggestion, maybe make the overseer a ground unit. This way a melee build can also be viable instead of making a match into a anti-air heavy match. And so pretty much overall he gets a 2.5 score out of 5, so relatively okay, but from what I have played and observed, people are very rarely play this game script because it does kind of force everyone into a certain play style, and there's not much wiggle room compared to the other game scripts where you can do a melee build, an anti-air build, or there's more variety and fun to be had, I would say. Alright, and this is like a bonus script, I would say, I guess in a funny way. You can also try to do a no script type of match where there's no script and nothing stopping you, and so it's mostly a player versus player focused match. Although there are some neutrals around the map, you can go around and kill to try and level up your army and to try and deny that, I guess, XP and gold from those neutrals that you kill. And so you can kill more neutrals to get a XP advantage over the enemy. So you're able to have I guess, different playstyle as well. But also there's this options to turn off health potions. This can also change the game into making, I guess, hoarding gold on top of your bar. Very, I guess, not a viable strategy. Because you would want to use up all your gold to make auto barracks, to just spam your enemy with auto units. Because you're not going to be able to build a potion stash to buy potions. And so the games can become very macro heavy, where you just make auto bases, auto barracks, with production buildings to try and overwhelm your enemy. And over here I'm going to mention a little thing, is that when you're playing a match with no script on, you can't really see the, whatever you call it, you can't see what script it is. The only thing it shows is that there's no potions mode, which means you can't really build a potion stash right here. And pretty much how a no script match is going to be going. You're going to be making your buildings, killing all these neutrals like these goblins, a troll, and these bandits. But there's one thing you can do to get auto XP, is you can kill these wolves around the map. And if you kill these wolves, but you leave one wolf alive, you're able to wait for more wolves to spawn. And so this is the only way for you to get extra XP and the gold in a match with no game script active. Anyways, if you liked the video, you can leave a like, leave a comment. If you want to see more videos on the Scouring Early Access, then you can subscribe. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.